What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex, and you're watching the TF Movie Show. This is just a web series. We're talking about the Transformers film franchise. This is episode number 92, and in this episode, I want to talk more about Transformers Rise of the Beasts, and specifically its connections to the Michael Bay Transformers Bayverse. I know I posted, or rather talked about in a previous video, that Transformers Rise of the Beast is a reboot, and yes it is. They are going in a completely new direction that is disconnected from the storyline of where we left off in Transformers Last Night. We are not going with Unicron coming from the ground. I know a lot of people want that, but the big dead giveaway, which makes this, or the big piece of evidence which makes Transformers Rise of the Beast a full-on reboot, is of course how they're dealing with Unicron. All right, but that doesn't mean to say that there are no connections to the Bayverse. Yes, it is a reboot, but I'm going to share with you my list of items which is evidence that this is still somewhat connected to the Bayverse. Now, it doesn't mean that, it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. This is just my personal opinion, and these are things I feel that make this film connected to the Bayverse, even though it's going in a completely different direction. But these are just some things I want to share with you in no particular order. I'm going to list 10 things, and some people might feel that I'm digging deep or really reaching out, but it is still there, okay? So, number 10, okay? Now, this refers back to the previous film Bumblebee back in 2018. We know that Bumblebee works both as a reboot and as a prequel to Michael Bay's Bayverse, okay? And this film is actually a sequel to Bumblebee, and what the number 10 item is that Optimus Prime actually mentions. He doesn't particularly mention Charlie, but he does mention that Bumblebee had a connection with a human friend. Okay, so that's that connection right there. It's connected to Bumblebee, which is also connected to the Bayverse. Okay, it's directly connected because it ends as as a Bumblebee turning into a Camaro. So where do you go from there, right? Number 9. Steve Jablonsky's end score. That was awesome. It was nostalgic. I loved hearing it. But still, the fact that Steve Jablonsky had his score in Transformers Rise of the Beast, that really shows you right away that, they want to make that connection there. All right, they want to bring back that music. They could have had entirely new music for the whole score, but they decided to make 5 or 10% of this of the score a theme from the original films. So there's a connection right there. Number 8, Terra Con's Novocaine and Freezer. Doesn't that remind you of something? I feel like in every Transformers Bayverse film, there was a mini con just like that. It feels like Novocaine and Freezer are the cousins of characters like Reedman and Frenzy, of course, and any type of mini con that moves like that. They move like animals. You know what I'm saying? They're really, really fast, and they just look like basically walking, talking razor blades. You know what I'm saying? Like Frenzy. So had they removed Freezer and Novocaine, that I won't feel that familiarity with a Frenzy. But the fact is that it's there, and it takes major inspiration from Frenzy and Reedman. All right. Number 7, vast, nameless Decepticon armies. Okay, fine, they're Terra Con armies, but the fact is that when you had Revenge of the Fallen, and when you had Age of Extinction, and when you had Transformers Last Night, and a Dark of the Moon, like, they all had nameless Decepticons, or at least nameless con robots. And now we have the same thing with Transformers Rise of the Beast. They actually could have made it just like Autobots and Primals, or Optimus Prime, Autobots and what are they called again? Beasts. What are they? I can't remember what they called. Maximals. They're called Maximals, right? Yeah, the Maximals. Autobots and Maximals versus Scourge, Nightbird, and I'm just drawing a blank. Battle Trap. Although they would look outnumbered, but Scourge, keep in mind, Scourge defeated Ape Link, okay? So he himself is a very strong force to be reckoned with, okay? He's a very strong Terra Con, and he could probably take on 3 or 4 Autobots or Maximals at the same time, considering he did beat Optimus in a previous fight. So if you just make the bad guy cons more stronger, which he had, which they already are, then you wouldn't need to have vast nameless armies, because the fact is that those were unlimited amount of Terra Cons. All they really needed to do was just add Scorponox, like a couple of Scorponox, and that's it. And I really didn't think they needed to add more of like Freezer type and Novocaine type Terracons and those other weird looking ones. I really didn't think they needed that. All they needed was a bunch of Scorponox and then the 3 original Terracons, and you're done. And that would be enough, okay? But once I saw all these armies come out, I was just thinking, wow, this just brings me back to the Bayverse, right? Number 6, Optimus Prime still has a mouth. Yes, I get it, and some people, will challenge me on this, but the fact is that, Optimus Prime has a mouth, and I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. But that is a design aesthetic that was specifically like requested by Michael Bay himself, okay? He wanted Optimus Prime to have a mouth. He wanted him to have lips so he can emote. I get it, okay? And Optimus Prime, as a main character, he should be able to emote, not just through the eyes. The mouth actually helps complete the look. So that's why they decided to do that. But it doesn't just change the fact that this is still a Bayverse decision. You know what I'm saying? It's an artistic decision from Michael Bay himself. That's what he wanted. Number 5, unexplained character design changes, specifically Wheeljack. We already had a really great design for Wheeljack in Bumblebee back in 2018 in the Cybertron sequence. And if this is supposed to be a direct sequel to Bumblebee, then why is Wheeljack a completely different character? Completely different design, completely different voice, and with an accent. This is a very Michael Bay thing to do because, well, you have characters like Megatron, for example. He went from a spaceship to a tank to a truck and to, oh my god, it's gone through so many, to Transformers Last Night. No real explanation for that. And at the time I was used to it, but I thought we're straying away from that. But now we went back to a very Michael Bay thing to do. And to top things off, Wheeljack has an accent, and he never had one before, but it once again goes back to Michael Bay's style of wanting to give characters kind of ethnic backgrounds. Like, for example, I have no problem with Drift being a samurai and, having a Japanese accent. I have no problem with that because, well, he's a samurai, and second, I've never heard what Drift sounds like in the cartoon, but Hot Rod being French, that's and then now we have Wheeljack having a Spanish accent. So once again, a very, very Michael Bay thing to do, and also the unexplained character design changes. That's definitely very, very Bayverse. Number 4. Now this one's directly connected to Age of Extinction, because only Rise of the Beast, Age of Extinction, and Rise of the Beast and Age of Extinction are the only 2 films that actually have a Autobots Unite scene, which is kind of like the I guess their version of Arrival of the Autobots, right? Arrival to Earth, right? And whenever they did that, Optimus Prime always said on the radio, "Calling all Autobots, calling all Autobots." So they have that again, okay? But it's not like you're gonna change that. That's a theme in Transformers in general. But it's the fact that they decided to use that. Excuse me. Number 3, transforming sound effects. They could have went with the original sound effect. I don't know. I still don't know why to this date they didn't use the original sound effect from the G1 cartoons. They could have. I know they've used it in the past, very briefly, but they could do versions of that, right? It could be in reverse. It could be slowed down. They could raise or lower the pitch. but have that original sound effect. Having that original sound effect would change things a lot. But at the end of the day, like when I heard the transformation sounds, it really does sound a lot like what it sounded like in the Bayverse. Number 2, Bumblebee still has no voice. Bumblebee still has no voice. They could just give him a voice. They could forget about the fact that his voice box got ripped out and damaged by Blitzwing. They could just forget all that. If you want to reboot it, reboot it. Stop making this a soft reboot. He still has no voice. He still talks to the radio, and I think it's completely unnecessary. Dylan O'Brien did a great job voicing Bumblebee in the Cybertron sequence of Bumblebee, so why not just keep that, right? Like, let's forget about all that. I don't need an explanation as to why. Just say it got fixed. And number 1, Bumblebee's design and overall design aesthetic of all the bots, okay? But mostly Bumblebee's design is very, very... but I'm just thinking... it's very Bayverse-like, but I'm just thinking that, like, what else could he possibly look like? What else could he, like, how else could they design him? They have the original model, and they just keep on evolving it, and that's what they're gonna do, all right? So, which leads me to believe, like, they will have, Stephen Caple Jr.'s Transformers Rise of the Beast is a reboot. It's a reboot, okay? But it's only a reboot in the story sense. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. It's a reboot in the story sense, but they will never, never truly, truly reboot Transformers. The only way they'll ever do that is with the cartoon, an animated series, or an animated a feature-length film, which is Transformers 1, which is coming out next year. That will be Transformers' very first feature film reboot. But as for a full-on reboot, they're never gonna do that. I mean, why would you ever change Optimus Prime's design? That's Optimus Prime, okay? And to have it a full-on reboot, not only do you have to change, have a new direction for the story, but then you'd have to get an all-new voice cast, which means no Peter Cullen. You'd have to change maybe even the era or the over, like, complete design aesthetic. And I happen to like Optimus Prime's design, right? So, like, why would you want to even change that? Okay, it is fine the way it is. So yeah, there's never ever gonna be the reboot that a lot of fans are looking for. They're just rebooting the story, as in it's going in a completely different direction, a spin-off, if you will, and they decided to branch off into a brand new universe, and that's good enough for me. All right, at least we're kind of straying away from the Bayverse and then doing something that will be a little bit more less repetitive and more exciting, at least in the story sense, okay, in the creative sense. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about in this video. I really want to share with you the fact that, yes, it is still connected to the Bayverse. This is not a full-on reboot. It's a reboot, but it's not a complete reboot because everything still looks the same. But for the story, I mean, you got brand new characters and you're going in a completely new direction with Unicron. At least they have a direction. At least they know where they're going with this, right? So it's just up to the fans to support these films, all right? Anyways, my name's Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.